Hey guys, it's Kay, and today we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. Since the new series just came out, I figured now would be a perfect time to cover him, and I did dig pretty deep with him. This is probably going to be a multiple part video, just because I wanted to cover things that the new series didn't. I did just wake up and jump out of the shower, so my hair's a little crazy right now, bear with me. Anyway. Jeffrey Dahmer was born Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer on May 21st, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was the first of two sons of Joyce Annette, a teletype machine instructor, and Lionel Herbert Dahmer, a Marquette University chemistry student and later a research chemist. Some sources say that he was neglected or abandoned by his parents. However, other sources say that he actually had a lot of attention growing up and that he was well loved. His mother was known to be tense, greedy for attention and pity, and argumentative with her husband and their neighbors. Around the time that Jeff entered first grade, Lionel's university studies often kept him away from home. When he was home, his wife, a hypochondriac who had depression, demanded constant attention and spent an increasing amount of time in bed. At one point, she even attempted suicide with Equino. Neither parent is reported to have spent too much time with their son Jeffrey, who said that from an early age, he felt unsure of the solidarity of the family, recalling extreme tension and numerous fights between his parents during his childhood. Dahmer was an energetic and happy child, but became notably subdued after double hernia surgery just before his 4th birthday. Okay, since I didn't bring a hair tie in here, we're gonna improvise. By the time he entered elementary school, he was noted as being quiet and timid. One teacher noted that she detected early signs of abandonment due to his dad's absence and mom's illnesses. Her symptoms increased when she became pregnant with her second child, David. Jeff did have a small number of friends in elementary school. October 1966, they moved to Doylestown, Ohio. Joyce gave birth in December, and Jeffrey was allowed to name his younger brother, David. So on that topic, would any of you, actually, let me know down in the comments, would any of you actually let your child name their sibling? Because my thought here is, well, what if they don't like the fact that they're getting a sibling? They could name it Cat Poop or something like that, you know? And sure, then you could be like, no, let's pick another name. But my brother, knowing him, would have named me Ford or Shelby after a car. I would not have liked that. Shelby's not horrible, but Ford, come on now. I think that's an absurd idea, letting your child name their other child. Maybe you could make it a nickname, a pet name, middle name even. Like if they chose Lee, that's a perfect middle name. But I would not, no. In my opinion, that's just crazy. That same year, Lionel would go on to receive his degree. He would start work as an analytical chemist in Akron, Ohio. At an early age, Dahmer took an interest in dead animals, much like the recent series portrayed. This began when he was about 4 years old. He saw his dad removing animal bones from underneath the house and was oddly thrilled by the noise the bones made. He became preoccupied with them and initially called them his fiddlesticks, or he would then occasionally search under and around the house for more animal bones. He also explored the bodies of live animals to discover where the bones were located. In 1968, they moved to Bath Township, Summit County, Ohio. This was their third address in 3 years, the 6th since the Dahmers got married. The home was on 1.5 acres of woodland with a small hut only a small walk away from the house. There, Jeffrey started collecting large insects like moths and dragonflies, as well as skeletons of small animals such as squirrels, some of which he would preserve in jars of formaldehyde and stowed in the hut. 2 years later, during a chicken dinner, Jeff asked his father what would happen if the chicken bones were bleached. His father was happy with his son's scientific curiosity and showed him how to safely bleach and preserve animal bones. Which, okay, sure, you can be happy that he's scientifically curious, but at the same time, here's where I would be asking questions, because why are you interested? You know what I mean? It's not a horrible thing, but why? Is there anything going on? Because that's a psychopathic trait. Early childhood animal killings, at the very least, is a psychopathic trait. So I'd be like, is that the next step? You know what I mean? I'd be a little concerned. Dahmer did use this technique and then began collecting roadkill and dead animals to dissect and bury beside the hut. He would sometimes make makeshift crosses and place the skulls on top of them. He would tell a friend he was curious about how animals fitted together. Dahmer would once prank a friend by decapitating the body of a dog and nailing the body to a tree, impaling the skull on a stick in the woods behind his house, and told his friend that he just found them like that by chance. That's just disturbing to me. Like, once again, I feel like here's where I would be like, okay, let me run home and tell my mom what you just showed me, you know what I mean, if I was that kid, because that's A, not a prank, and B, creepy. Just creepy. I feel like that should have raised a lot of red flags because he was still a kid here, you know? The same year his father would teach him how to preserve animal bones, his mother increased her daily consumption of equinol, laxatives, and sleeping pills. This would further minimize her contact with her husband and kids. Now we move on to his adolescence and high school years. Jeffrey went to Revere High School, and during his freshman year was labeled as an outcast. By 14, he started drinking beer and hard liquor during the day. He often concealed his drinks inside the jacket he wore to school. He told one classmate who caught him drinking scotch in an early morning history class that he was taking my medicine. By school staff, Jeffrey was seen as polite and highly intelligent, but with average grades. He was a tennis player and played in the school band for a short while. By the time he reached puberty, he realized that he was gay but would not yet tell his parents this. He did have a relationship with another teenage boy when he was an early teen. He states that he began fantasizing about dominating and controlling a completely submissive male partner in his early to mid-teens. These fantasies then would evolve into him focusing on the chest and torsos, and then they would intertwine with dissection. At age 16, he conceived a fantasy of rendering unconscious a particular male jogger that he liked, and making sexual use of his body. Once he even hid in the bushes and waited for the jogger to pass, but he never did pass by that day. He admitted that this was his first attempt to attack and make someone submissive to him. He became somewhat of a class clown, often pulling pranks in school, which became known as doing a Dahmer, which I believe is also mentioned in the series, briefly. These pranks included simulating epileptic seizures, as well as cerebral palsy, which, in my opinion, isn't really a prank. Because these are actual, diseases and disorders and disabilities that don't have a cure, that people can't just, I don't know. It's just a horrible thing to joke about, in my opinion. He would do these pranks in school and in local stores. Sometimes he would even do them for money to buy alcohol with. By 1977, his grades dropped. His parents hired a tutor, but that didn't help much. His parents continued fighting, and during the same year would attend counseling in an attempt to save their marriage. When Lionel discovered that Joyce had had an affair in September of 1977, they got divorced. Lionel moved out in early 1978. He stayed in a motel for a while on North Cleveland Massillon Road. In May of 1978, Jeffrey graduated high school. A few weeks before graduation, a teacher noticed him sitting close to the school parking lot, drinking a beer, and threatened to report it. He said that he was having issues at home and that the guidance counselor was already aware of it. That spring, Joyce and David moved out of the house to live with relatives in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Jeffrey had turned 18 by that time, so he decided to stay in the house. The divorce finalized on July 24th, 1978, and Joyce was awarded custody of David and alimony payments. Now we move on to his late teens and early 20s, including his first murder. Now, the series starts with the victim who gets away and his arrest, if I remember correctly, but we're gonna go in order of the events, rather than skip around. Okay, the murder of Stephen Hicks. Dahmer committed his first murder in 1978. This was only 3 weeks after his graduation. June 18th, he picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Mark Hicks. He was almost 19. Jeff lured Hicks to his house to drink. Much like the show, Hicks was planning on attending a concert, but did agree to go back to Dahmer's house for a few drinks, since Dahmer had the house to himself. Dahmer stated that the sight of Stephen's bare chest stirred sexual feelings, but when Stephen started talking about girls, he basically realized he didn't have a chance. After several hours of drinking, talking, and listening to music, Stephen wanted to leave, but Dahmer says he did not want him to. He bludgeoned Hicks with a 10-pound dumbbell and later stated that he struck Hicks twice from behind as he sat on a chair. While Hicks was unconscious, Jeff strangled him to death with the bar of a dumbbell, stripped him before exploring his chest with his hands, and then masturbated over the course. The next day, he dissected the body in the basement. He would later bury the body in a shallow grave in his backyard. Weeks later, he dug up the remains and separated the flesh from the bones. See why they should have been asking questions earlier? And dissolved the flesh in acid before flushing the solution down a toilet. Sounds like it would clog it. I'm no plumber. He crushed the bones with a sledgehammer and scattered them in the woods behind the house. 6 weeks after the murder, his father and his fiancée returned home to find Jeff living alone at the house. That August, Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State University, hoping to major in business. His sole term was unproductive due to his alcohol abuse. He failed at least 3 classes: Introduction to Anthropology, Classical Civilizations, and Administrative Science. However, he did obtain a B- in riflery. His GPA was .45 out of 4.0. And that's where we are going to stop for today. So if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see part 2, feel free to leave a like, subscribe down below so you don't miss it. And I will see you guys next week.